Thank you very much. I would like to thank primarily the organizers. The situation is not so optimistic. We've been living this pandemic for more than a year now. Let me just repeat, after our Nobel winner, Olga Tokarczuk, who said that the time has changed us. It's changed our attitudes. It's changed our mentality. It seems that the return to normalcy, to normality, to the past is impossible. We need to develop other values, other criteria that will lead us ahead. I would agree with this. This is also my view. The authors of the theme of this conference have suggested that we focus on myths in architecture. I'm going to speak about the art of construction or about beauty in architecture. This topic belongs to the vast array of topics focusing on architecture as art. When I was actually preparing for this conference, my granddaughter asked me, why you keep talking about beauty? For a long time, the world looks like this. We were looking for beauty and we couldn't find it. So to me, it's a great and fantastic experience to be able to recognize beauty all around myself. So today I'm going to talk about art and architecture, their mutual relationship. So I decided to narrow down this topic, and I wanted to ask myself, how much art do we have in architecture and how much architecture is there in art? Our organizers asked us to talk about myths in architecture. I always have such luck that there is something that inspires me. And here I came across Claude Lévi-Strauss about myth and importance. And Lévi-Strauss has told us that we need order to create beauty. So the organization is also present in the worlds expressed by Tokarczuk. Tokarczuk has told us that if we can't return to our past, if we can't return to our basic values, we need to develop new ones. So it's the black swan attitude. And she also speaks about organization, categorization, that the organization is very important for our lives. So let's go back to our key topic. How much architecture is there in art and how much art is there in architecture? Architecture is the art of organizing space. It is one of the oldest arts as long as mankind existed. We have constructed things around us. We have always constructed sites, places where we live, when we love, when we go ahead, move ahead. It is the most ancient of arts. Today, the world is moving towards the virtual existence. But art keeps existing in reality. Without reality, there is no architecture, and there is no art in architecture. How much art is there in architecture? Art is a very complex activity, but it requires absolute talent. It requires determination, consistency. So the pursuit of one's objectives. Art opens to extremes and also stirs extreme emotions. An artist, when they want to build their position, doesn't want to belong to the mainstream, want to create something unusual, something that will shock us positively, but not necessarily. They want to also inspire and stir negative emotions. So in my paper I chose Denis Detton's book, where I found the criteria for defining art. These criteria are based on biology. He also says that beauty is a part of nature and of human nature in general, that people seek beauty as they seek air and water. Datton, in his beautiful book, The Instinct of Art, I recommend the book to all of you, said the following. Actually, to put it differently, he created a platform that allows us discussing art, and he has defined certain criteria that define art or describe the way in which we perceive art. There are 12 such criteria. Obviously, they are individual, the list may be extended, but let's leave his list. The first one is direct pleasure of creating art, and proficiency and virtuosity, novelty and creativity. We are always looking for something new. There's a special place for uniqueness, expressive individuality, emotional saturation. This is something that is emphasized by creators. Intellectual challenge, then the traditions and art institutions, as well as imagination. I believe that the criteria that I put in here in bold font are present also in architecture. You need proficiency and virtuosity to create beautiful buildings. Novelty and creativity are things that we appreciate. A special place for uniqueness is really crucial. Expressing individuality, that happens sometimes. Emotional saturation and satisfaction is important. Intellectual challenge and imagination. Let me start with the example of Silesia. This is the Silesian Museum, and you can see in here how long this art has existed. We have in here an old shaft that makes part of this complex of the Museum of Silesia. Architecture also involves structures, not only emotion. Emotion in people who create architecture, people who use architecture, who experience it. It is typical of architecture that it's created by one person, but in order to make it reality, to put it into existence, you need a lot of people, and this is something that differentiates it from art. And then you need a business plan for architecture, you need to create it, and for that you need to have money, somebody needs to cover the bills, it's also very important. But we still need to remember that the theater of imagination and the pursuit of perfection are very important, and this is something that the two domains, art and architecture, share between themselves. Without the pursuit of perfection, there is no good art and there is no good architecture. And this is something that has been confirmed by the neurological research, which is becoming more and more popular. People want to know how our brain works and how to make them work in order to live in a better way. And it turns out that the pursuit of perfection is one of the basic elements of our biology, of our very essence, the essence of human existence. It is typical of creators, both in the domain of art and in the domain of architecture, that they keep reiterating the activities in order to ensure that the next work is better, that it's perfect. So I have selected 3 examples. The Neues Museum in Berlin, and this is the example I'm going to start with. start with the architect of the project was David Chipperfield, and the original project was developed in 1855. I have selected 3 buildings that were constructed during different periods in different sites, but all of them share one thing in common. They were developed on the basis of a facility that either existed in the past or existed at the time of construction and were in a way converted. So they gained another life, life after life, something we all dream about. To me, this theme is highly important, highly relevant for architecture. I believe that the quality of continuation, the good continuation, is something that architects need to deal with right now. Probably there is another crisis ahead of us. The times will be gloom, but we need to think about creating the world around us. So let me start with David Chipperfield. Neues Museum, so the new museum, was created in the Isle of Museums in Berlin. Unfortunately, there's no water. Could I ask somebody for a glass of water, please? Okay, never mind, never mind. So the museum was constructed in the mid-19th century, and for many years it was used as the example of this perfect modern museum. During the Second World War, in 1945, it was damaged. And it was only... Okay, so let me just show it. It's a classical, typical museum. So it was a model for other museums of this type. So it was seen as this ideal, as the perfect representation of its type. This is the way a classical museum looked like. It was created to extend the Egyptian collection of the Berlin Museum and to host it. And this is what it looked like after the destruction during the war. Well, the Allies' bombings in the 40s, especially at the end of the war, damaged a lot of buildings in Berlin. And it was only at the beginning of 1990s that David Chipperfield was commissioned with the project of reconstructing, converting the museum. As you can see, it's a different museum, but it's still perfect. It's still the modern museum, and to us, the viewers, the visitors, it's even more enticing. So Chipperfield has removed the damaged elements and converted the mood, changed the mood of the place. So now we have minimalism, we have simplicity. Let me just quote him, if I may. The building was ready in 1905. You can't act as if nothing has happened, because something has happened. It would have been easier just to copy the old building rather than preserve the history. And we can only add some words from another architect. Architecture appears when it goes beyond simple usability. So let's have a look at the building. You can see in here the quality of the matter in this emptiness, in this minimalism. In 2011, the building was awarded a prestigious German award, and in the past it was also considered the building of the year. Another example, the Center of Meeting of Four Cultures, that was a project by Bolesław Stelmach, but the original project came from the 70s. This building was erected in 2015. In the 17th, we had Sturm and Drang in Poland, we believe to be the best in Europe, the most advanced. And in Lublin, at this very place, that was the first capital of Poland after the liberation, after the Second World War, there was the idea to construct a building with an auditorium for 2,000 people. And for a while this project lived on. Several times the work were interrupted for financial reasons. The building was never completed. There was a music hall, Philharmonic Hall, and a theater, but the complex has never been completed, and it was in this condition for over 40 years. In 2009, one of our colleagues, Stelmach, won a competition to convert this complex into a new site, and he did so. We have 3 beautiful halls.
Piękna przestrzeń publiczna.
This beautiful public space.
Najładniejsza na dachu.
And the most beautiful space is on the roof. Congratulations, this public space that moves us through the building up to the roof is just amazing.
Są jak gdyby 3 warstwy.
So we have sort of 3 layers here. The entrance, the square, and the public space of the square. Then the passage through the building.
Wykorzystane są elementy starej struktury.
The elements of the old structure have been used.
Przepraszam, jak się cofa?
Yes, excuse me. Could you help me with the slides?
Idź do przodu. No to moment. Przepraszam. Dobra.
Excuse me.
No tak, mamy drugi. Jest to przykład dobrej kontynuacji.
Yes, so it's an example of good continuation, which I find a very important feature of architecture. It organizes in a way this myth of architecture. And let's move on to the next example. This is a building, the complex of music schools in Warsaw. Originally, the building was designed in 1901. By Kozłowski, and eventually the new building was designed by Tomasz Kozłowski and was completed in 2020. So the plot was developed with a building that was constructed at the end of the 19th century. It was in 1891. So the building was originally an orphanage that was constructed for the association that ran it.
Dawny dom sierot, tak. Władysław Kozłowski, 1899-1901.
Yes, so the architect was Kozłowski. The building was completed in 1891 and was to host an orphanage run by an association. Charity association.
Ogromny, wielkie gmaszysko.
It was huge.
Ten budynek stał się częścią
The building became
nowego
part
założenia.
of this new design, of this new project. It took the entire plot, you can see it from the front, yes?
Może mi się uda.
Maybe I'll be able to show you the exact location of the
Czyli ten stary
building.
budynek.
This is
I
the
od
old
tyłu w tyle
building,
działki
and
powstał
here
nowy
at the
budynek,
back,
który
and new
razem
building was
tworzył cały kwartał, jak
developed,
widać.
and together
We wnętrzu
they
są to jak gdyby dwie opowieści
occupied the entire
architektoniczne. Jest
lot.
opowieść
So
o
inside
architekturze
you have
całego
two
zespołu,
stories
czyli ten
about
czworobok,
architecture.
i architektura
So
tej
you
sali
have
wnętrza,
the old development
ponieważ
and
to
this
jest zespół szkół muzycznych,
internal
powstała
building.
wielka sala muzyczna.
Since
tak, ponad
it's a
300
complex
osób.
of music schools, you also have an
Tak to
auditorium
wygląda przy
for
kroju.
300 people.
Mamy stary
This is the
budynek.
section, the old building.
Wejście jest jak gdyby schodzi się w dół i dołem potem przechodzi się do wnętrza nowego.
The entrance is here at the ground
A
floor.
tak wygląda. No i mówimy o
this
tej
is
pierwszej opowieści.
The
o
look
opowieści
from
o
the
budynku.
outside. So this is the first
budynek
story, the
pochodzi
story of the building.
Z czasów, kiedy tak się budowano.
The
Jeden budynek
building
czerwony,
was erected during the
neogotycki
times
gmach
when we
z czerwonej
used to
cegły.
construct building
Został
in this way, so it's a neo-Gothical building, and the facade of this red
Autor
brick
dopisał
was
część drugą.
preserved. But the
Właściwie
author of the
autorski.
project created also
I
the
tu widzimy,
second part
jak tubus
of this
tego
design,
wnętrza,
and here
serce
you can
zespołu
see the
mieści się w
heart
środeczku.
of this complex
Bardzo
in the
piękny, klasyczny
courtyard.
układ.
So it's a beautiful, beautiful classical layout.
Który tworzy niespodzianki.
So we have also a lot of
Nowe ze
surprises
starym
here.
się przenika.
The
Nowe ze starym
permeation between
dyskutuje.
the old
W
and the
różnych
new, the discussion
układach.
between the old and the new in
Nowe
various
jest światłem.
configurations. The new is the light,
Stare jest architekturą.
the old is the architecture.
No i mamy salę, drugi
And
element.
we have the
Sala, która
auditorium,
rzeczywiście
the
jest sercem
auditorium,
tego
which
zespołu.
truly is the
Charakterystyczna z
heart of
powodu
the
swojej
complex.
geometrii.
It is quite unusual because of its geometric quality.
Dla mnie to jest,
To me,
przyrównuje się do
it
kwiatu.
reminds me of a flower.
Wnętrze jest
The
dla
interior,
ponad 300 miejsc siedzących,
the
amfiteatralnych
interior is
wzniesionych.
quite vast, so
I
we
scena, która
have
jest dla
place
75
for
muzyków,
300
czyli dla dużego chóru i orkiestry.
people, and we have over 60 places for musicians,
A
over
dzięki
70 places for
współpracy z
musicians.
firmą Yashu Toyota,
And owing to the cooperation with
Japonii,
Yashu Toyota from
tą samą
Japan,
firmą, z którą tworzył
the very
Konior
same
NOS w Katowicach, a NOS
company
dostał
that
najwyższą
participated
ocenę
with
jakości swojej
Konior
muzykalności.
on the construction of the
Przestrzeni.
NOSP
Tak samo
site
tutaj.
in
Budynek
Katowice.
wbrew geometrii i wbrew
Also in the case
pewnym
of this building,
dyskusjom wielu, bo krągłość sali nie
contrary
zawsze
to many discussions,
wydaje się
because
dobra dla
not
muzyki.
everybody believes
dla
that
akustyki jest
round
najlepsza.
buildings
Jednak
are the best for
zachowano.
acoustics. In
I
this
tym
case,
kwintesencją tego
we
jest ta
have
krągłość sali, ten
preserved
tubus,
the
plafon
good quality of
i
acoustics.
te Państwo widzicie
And
w postaci
as you can see,
płatków kwiatu,
The,
żagle akustyczne, które
roof,
sprowadzają i
next to the roof, we have suspended acoustic sails that allow us to distribute
faktura i materiał
the sound.
właśnie
The texture
skłania do
and the material
słyszalności, jakości dźwięku.
improves the quality of
Jak
sound.
widać, autorzy obaj
And
tej
here
sali
we have
cieszą się,
the picture
uradowani
of
są.
both authors of this building.
Cały budynek
They are very
posiada
happy, very pleased with
Ponad
the
100
result.
pomieszczeń muzycznych.
In the building we
różnego
have
typu.
more than
sal
100
A te mniejsze
music
sale także są
rooms,
piękne.
and
I
also the
wszystkie
smaller rooms
w
are very
zależności od
beautiful.
instrumentów, które są,
Depending
dla
on the
którego są przeznaczone
instruments
głównie,
they are dedicated
posiadają
to,
swój
they
wystrój.
have their own unique features.
Na końcu pozwoliłam sobie
And at the
zamieścić
very end,
zdjęcia autorów
I
obu
just
polskich prezentowanych
wanted
przeze
to
mnie
show you
budynków.
the pictures of the office of both Polish buildings
A
discussed
wszystko po
by me.
to, żeby
And
młodzież
all of
polska
that to
była
tell you
radosna.
that what we need to do is to make
Po to,
Polish
żeby rosło
youth
pokolenie
happy.
ludzi, którzy będą z
We want to
radością
ensure
kreatywnie
that the
tworzyć
new
świat po prostu.
generation is ready to express their creativity, to create the world around them.
Mit architektury niechaj zostanie.
The myth of architecture should be preserved, the myth of connection between art and architecture. It's a good myth. It's a positive myth. Going back to one more thing, to my conclusions. Levi Strauss has said at the very end of the small booklet that I recommended you at the beginning of my presentation, he compared myth to music, and he said that, like music, myth requires us to get to know the whole, that the fragment of a myth means nothing, that myth should be always construed in its entirety. And it seems to me that the same applies to architecture. It is only the entirety of the concept, of the thought, that creates architecture as such. Peter Zumthor, one of the most outstanding architects of today, tells us that the quality of architecture is not the subject of academic discussions. If the atmosphere is good, if people can feel it, if people like it, if they return to this place, if they feel the usefulness of the place, we have succeeded. If they think the place is good, it's good, because people are not stupid. Thank you very much.
Proszę Państwa, tutaj zapowiadał
Ladies and gentlemen, our colleague Stelmach was one of the persons introducing this conference. I want to express my thanks to him, because it is thanks to him that my dreams and the dreams of Kuba, who has been my great partner, this book could be published. Architecture is an art that is created in teams. This is something that I wanted to emphasize. Thank you.
Dziękuję bardzo za bardzo interesujący.
Thank you very much for this very interesting